choosing to pretend she's overboard and self-sufficient.
Remove all the defense.
Oh no, I know a dirty word. Hello,
That one
hello,
and her.
with the lights down. It's so dangerous. Here we are now. Entertain us. I feel stupid and contagious. Here we
The Red Room is your home now.
I'm worse at what I do best, and for this gift I feel blessed. Our little group has always been and
Undercover spies in our communities. They took on false identities, even raised families to honor.
hello. Here we are now. Entertain us. I feel stupid and contagious. Here we are now. Entertain us. A mulatto, albino, a mosquito. Might be with the lights out, it's less dangerous. Here we are now. Entertain us. I feel stupid and contagious. Here we are now. Entertain us.
If someone told me that the Marvel Cinematic Universe was the Bible, I don't know how I'd feel about that. If someone implied to me that the Marvel Cinematic Universe is essentially the most important thing to happen in the history of humanity, I don't know how I'd feel about that. But that's what I'm here to say. And the proof in the fact of my statement that I have never, until this point in history, sat down and watched nearly all of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The proof is the fact that I would have already been talking about this a long fucking time ago. Like, this would have been the best video to have made in the history of all of the topics, subjects, and things that I've fucking ranted, raved, discussed, tried to teach and learn about on this channel. I mean, this would have just been the motherfucking motherlode. Like, this should have been where I would have started if I had had the fucking knowledge. I mean, I saw the Avengers. I saw Iron Man. I think the last, Marvel movies I really watched were Captain America, the Winter Soldier, and Guardians of the Galaxy. Now, that's also why I'm a bit confused myself. Because I swear to motherfuck, when I first watched Captain America and the Winter Soldier, not only did I not really like it, but I damn sure didn't pick up on any of the disclosure that was within. I mean, literally, every single Marvel movie is disclosure. It either has some kind of conspiratorial shit in there that if you do enough research, there's at least more than a 50% chance that it could be fucking real. And if we're dealing with more than a 50% chance that it could be fucking real, and we have shit that literally stacks up that it's not just a couple of Marvel movies, it's not just, a few of the bunch, it's every fucking Marvel movie. I mean, for fuck's I've been sitting here just watching the complete timeline in order, the MCU complete timeline on Disney Plus, and it is just a fucking ride and a half. When it comes to energy based healing and shit, like I've proven that with my body because I'm a diabetic and I was told by doctors I was gonna die and I was gonna die. And I always had good control of my blood sugar, but it just fucked up beyond belief when I started dabbling with the esoteric and occult shit that I just basically kind of stumbled upon and then was like, well, if this is a chance for a better world for us all, then it's my duty to please that booty. In any case, it took a massive toll on my physical and spiritual health. Only by listening to the voices in my head was I able to actually save my own life and get energy, strength, and physical well-being back that I haven't had in a very long fucking time. And doing so while defying medical science by damn sure not doing anything that they recommended and going against basically every medical recommendation that there could be and only kind of slightly loose. Essentially, I'm not breaking all the rules, but I'm bending them so badly that I might as well have broke them. But I do like those loopholes, and it does seem that evil, the forces that be that are out there that continue to bully and oppress us, because that is what we face every single day. It does not matter who the fuck you are on this planet. We are bullied and oppressed, and it just makes absolutely no sense unless you realize there is an evil force out there that desperately needs our suffering. It desperately needs our misery as some kind of fuel, as some kind of energy source. And, you know, when I was watching the Marvel movies, every single time I would start one up, I'd go, oh, this cannot be important. Like, oh, I could skip over this one. But every single time I refused to skip over one and just kept watching all of them in order. The only things I skipped over were the one-shots. I didn't watch any of that shit. But every single time, something important would be there. Like the opening clip that you saw, which was the Black Widow opening, which I have to say goes way harder than the rest of the film. Like the opening 15-20 minutes of Black Widow are so fucking intense, so dark, so dramatic, so fucking incredible. And granted, it works really well with the rest of the film because it does give you a great basis to experience the rest of the story and the things that happen. But when we're actually sitting here just unpacking the real shit, hello, look at all that human trafficking shit. Look at all that subliminal imagery that's referencing mind control. And then there's the fact that the bad guy in the film, who's involved in all this trafficking, is pictured with Bill Clinton. Like, you could have pictured him with any Republican you wanted, if you were going to use a real person even. Or you could have used a fake Marvel villain character. There are plenty out there. But you chose Bill fucking Clinton and then Condoleezza Rice as to say they're friends with people on both sides of the aisle. Well, I've been saying that the entire time. It's like all this information about UFOs up in the sky that the airmen and women have reported to us and whistleblowers have told us that essentially proves that the first season of X-Files and more is a true fucking story, alongside all of the Marvel Cinematic Universe being a true fucking story. I mean, literally, Eternals is Ancient Aliens. It's all of that kind of Chariots of the Gods type stuff. And the fact is, if aliens were not real, or if, you know, it really doesn't matter at this point, because what we know for certain is that those in power are not using their power responsibly. They are creating news stories that only serve to create mass confusion, because either aliens are real and the proof is there and they're hiding it, or they're just allowing these stories to putter around when they could absolutely, equivocally shut them down. But they hide behind falsehoods to keep their illusions alive. Very similarly to how Israel claims that this is terror and that's terror. And I'm not trying to say that Israeli people are bad, but I'm trying to say that anyone who's operating a country, anyone who's wielding that kind of power and pointing the finger at someone as being a terrorist, and then being an equal terrorist yourself, it does not look good. And it's really impossible for America to equally call out Israel as being a terrorist, because what are they doing? Well, they're committing genocide. And if we act like we have a problem with the genocide that Israel's committing, then, the questions will be raised. What about the genocide of the Native Americans? It's like, well, the people who are running the country right now had nothing to do with that, so it's not their fault. But if they keep repeating these mistakes, it is their fault. Like, you can't allow those secrets. I mean, unless you're all Eternals or Immortals, and in which case, yeah, some of you probably are at fault, but it's certainly not our fault for what happened. Like, we all essentially just do as we're told, and that's why we all suffer from some form of a mental illness, because, as I said, either aliens are real, or they could confirm that they're not very easily, because even if it's national security at stake, listen, we already know that there's something that's thousands of years more advanced than us, and it's clearly not blown us the fuck up. I mean, what? Are you being held hostage by these things? Like, and in that case, it would basically prove that, yeah, evil's real and there's something out there and it definitely needs to be combated. And evidently, evil is, like, very cowardly, because if you are being held hostage by this stuff, and I've been talking about it for this long, and I've been sitting here in front of open windows and not been sniped, and no one's tried to fuck with me other than by using some weird magic forces to try to make me very afraid and to just, essentially lay down and die. And I'm like, nah, fuck you. I'm going to get busy living and you can get busy dying, bitch. Because you know what? We're the guardians of the galaxy, motherfuckers. All of us are. It is all our responsibility to guard the shit, and that's why we do what we do. Otherwise, the world would look like Grand Theft motherfucking Auto, but it does not. We bend rules occasionally for the sake of fun, but none of us go out in the world like, hey, I really want to hurt someone today. Like, actually hurt someone. Some of us might put on our asshole cap and say, how can we fuck up somebody's day today? But it's actually genuinely, in a sense, in that case, of being a little fucker. Somebody who's got a sense of humor that's a little more fucked up than most. They've been through some shit, Technically, I would say that Thanos, and again, if you have any MCU knowledge here, maybe you can follow this tangent, and let's see if you can. I would say that Thanos is not the ultimate evil no matter what he did. He needed to be stopped, definitely, because if you have stones that can wipe out half of the universe, my dude, what a lack of imagination you have that you couldn't come up with, like, a better solution to fix the problems. I think you probably fucking could have. And I think that, Tony, if you were going to sacrifice yourself and snap your fingers, you probably could have done more than you just did with that snap of the fingers. Like, again, the lack of imagination shows here. I guess that's why I must be Figment and his journey into your imagination in this bitch. So anyway, I would say that Thanos does not represent the most evil character in the MCU because, if you think of the planet that he came from as just a normal planet that had normal issues and then, starved and died, well, that's not a trauma that kind of makes his actions understandable. But what if he came from a utopian planet where everything was perfect and then it withered and died before his very eyes? That would actually make his actions understandable. It doesn't make them agreeable. It doesn't make them okay. And again, the lack of imagination shows here. But it does mean we can sit back and go, obviously this dude is a victim of fear, hate, and just all this trauma completely eroding any rational, sane thought patterns that could have existed. But then we have someone like Ego in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. And again, if you have MCU knowledge, hopefully you can follow along, because this is gonna get nerdy! But with Ego, you literally have the epitome of what actual evil is. You have someone who could shape the universe with everyone's help. Like, you don't have to wipe life out. You could, you think that things aren't awesome as they could be? We'll make them more awesome. You don't have to destroy shit to rebuild. And yet that's also what we see in Eternals. That, to create more of the galaxy, we have to wipe part of it out. This is going to require a Disney analogy here, and I hope you can nerdily follow along with me. If you are familiar with a ride called the Great Movie Ride, it's a classic from what was known as MGM Studios that became Hollywood Studios. In any case, it's just a classic ride that everybody loves and pretty much everybody hates that went away. And yes, when you put in a new ride, it's going to have longer lines than something that was a classic ride. But what's interesting is that classic ride everyone loved, and pretty much once people get off of this new ride, Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, they're not too crazy about it. The lines will continue to be longer than what would have been for a classic ride like the Great Movie Ride, but that's only because new things do generate more interest. But here's how it actually fucks up the balance of the universe. And again, it's nerdy, but it's actually going to make sense, and that's when it gets scary, because it's like, this shouldn't make sense, but it does. Literally and metaphorically. Fuck me, right? So in any case, now you have this asinine line for a ride that isn't even that good by park-goer standards. And yet this older ride that everybody loved had the ability to basically never have a line on the normal days, and had such high capacity and was such a ride that could essentially just kind of be the people eater, that even on the busiest days, on the crowdiest days, that line would move faster than anything else. And so when you remove something that's classic like that yes, might not be as new and shiny, and thus might not get those longer lines on non-peak days, you don't realize how that actually has fucked up your universe. Because it was quite normal to have all of the newer or more exciting attractions have longer lines. So everybody rushes to Harry Potter over at Universal. But then that means that stuff like The Simpsons and things that just aren't quite as popular have shorter lines. Ergo, it's not really necessary for fast passes or reservations, because everybody's not trying to rush to every single attraction. There are peak attractions, and there are attractions that people really like and enjoy, but they're there to serve a purpose. And so that's why the Great Movie Ride is such a wonderful example, because you have something like Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway that just doesn't have the love that was shown to the Great Movie Ride. And at the same time, it fucks up the synergy of the park, because you have all of these new attractions, and especially like Star Wars and all of this other stuff, that's going to get really, really long lines. So then people are going to be frustrated, because everywhere they turn, there's nowhere where they can get on something waiting for, less than 45 minutes, let's say. You could always get on the Great Movie Ride on the busiest days in 45 minutes or less. Even if the line said it was an hour, it never actually took an hour. That was always the thing about some of those classic rides. Just like, I love the new Guardians of the Galaxy roller coaster over at Epcot, even though I haven't ridden it yet, because it is massive disclosure. It's talking about them sharing alien technology with us, and if you believe what I believe and what is wonderful and can inspire us with hope, and we actually have evidence again of the government lying to us. So again, if all of this stuff is disclosure, then that ride is. But at the same time, the ride that was originally there was another one of those people eaters that could just take up massive crowds. And no matter what you think of those attractions, like, oh, it's not as fun as Galaxy. Yeah, but the synergy of the park offered something different. Like, you might think, oh, it's not as fun of a ride. But all of a sudden, when every single ride has a super long line, like more than an hour, that park-going experience just kind of sucks. It makes sense if you have a few rides that have like really short times, because they're just not very popular, but then more people actually end up getting on and off of them during the day, so they ride more rides, and then when they go and they wait in line for an hour for something really awesome, it makes sense. When you go and you wait in line for an hour for Fast and the Furious Supercharged over at Universal, you feel robbed, and deservedly so. But let's say Earthquake was still there, or maybe they had put Harry Potter in that location and Jaws was still where it was. Jaws probably would never have the line that the Harry Potter attraction would. But even then, if you got off of Jaws waiting an hour versus Fast and the Furious, you wouldn't feel as robbed. Like, Jaws was an awesome fucking attraction. And so that's just the thing. Newer is not always better. Destroying something that's still wonderful to create something new is a shitty move. So there's so much that can be learned from the Marvel movies. There's a lot that can prove that it's very much real shit. And that's also why some of us would have weird experiences when we watch them, like we think we don't like them, or we would have really negative reactions to them. And again, I get my DC fans out there. I love Batman. I love Superman. I love all that shit. I love Spawn. I love all the other comic book characters too. Like, let's not do what created the problem in the first place here. Like, let's not have a civil war about this shit. Let's recognize that, like, we don't have to destroy things to justify our love of something else. If you like Marvel, that doesn't mean you have to hate DC. DC can exist, Marvel can exist. That's how it should be. And, you know, actually, I would say that you could probably find a lot of the same disclosure in the DC movies that have existed over the past time. It's just that the Marvel ones have been helmed in such a way that they really had a very clear vision that others have not. And so it is a more collected space of just, holy shit, when you get done watching, 20-something movies, or more than that even, and including their Disney Plus series, and they just address fucking everything, you're like, well, fuck, that's not a coincidence when it's that many things in one specific place that's had one fucking clear vision for so many years. And let's, not forget that it is the highest grossing franchise out there. I mean, the Marvel Cinematic Universe is just a beast. You don't have to like it, but you have to respect it, I think, because it's impressive. Just sit there. If we didn't even think about all the magical cool shit, just think about how impressive it is of what they've accomplished. Like, that's the thing you have to look at shit. You don't have to like Captain Marvel, but you have to think, like, no, it's impressive. And Captain Marvel's a great movie and a great character. Like, I understand some people are rubbed the wrong way by it, but that's because there's something that's using mind control on us to try to make us tap into our negative emotions, which evidently do them great good, but us not so much. I mean, because even if you try to tap into anger, let's say, it doesn't have to be negative. Like, you should be happy if you have grown up idolizing someone like the Punisher and there's actual real true evil out there that you can manifest and wish to death. Like, you don't even have to go out there and use anything. You can use the Force, Luke, and just totally fuck up the Death Star without even entering an X-Wing. And so when you learn that, you should realize, well, wait, if my anger can power my little fairy magic here, it can make that emotional magic more powerful, then I need to have that inside out experience of recognizing I can have an angry, happy emotion. Like, I can be sad and all fucked up and tormented and angry about all this shit that's happened, but I can also be happy because I can remember how I felt as a kid. Nothing else mattered when we looked at superheroes when we were kids other than wanting to be a superhero. It doesn't matter if it was a Jedi, it doesn't matter if it was Star Trek. When we looked at heroes, all that we thought of was wanting to be a hero. Now, if all you wanted to do was to be a villain so that you could have power to hurt other people, well, we will do our best to help you. But I look at, the universe right now having two potentialities. Our best case scenario is that totally like Spider-Man No Way Home, we can cure everyone. Everyone can be saved. Everyone. And that's also a way to kill evil, because if you take an evil person and you destroy the evil from within them and make them a good person, then you've killed evil and you didn't have to kill the person to do it. Badass, awesome, love it. Worst case scenario, though. Evil can't be, cured, and we have to wish, prayer, manifest the death of all evil ones. All of the people who wouldn't just, use power irresponsibly for the sake of, I'm going to have fun, and I see somebody I could save, but I'm just not going to save them, and I'm just going to party over here. That person isn't evil by my standards, because I would think that would be kind of tyrannical. Everyone doesn't have to choose to be a hero, all right? That's fair. Because we should have a free universe where everyone can choose. But if you're going to choose to be a villain, not all of us have to choose to be Batman, you know what I'm saying? If we see the Joker out there, we understand that actually, if we're really going to play your 7 moral bitch-ass games, that the evil thing to do is to allow the Joker to live. If we cannot cure the Joker, if we can't fix him, and it's shown, the third time he breaks out of jail and keeps killing innocent people, especially once he kills your Robin, it's like, all right, game over, bitch. Let's go Ben Affleck on this motherfucker. I mean, that's just what you have to do, because Da Vinci made a good point. He who does not punish evil commands it to be done. It is very similar to all that is necessary for the triumph of evil is for good people to do nothing. I'm paraphrasing that, but, Edmund Burke, again, making very good points. When we sit back and we worry too much about the collateral damage, it's like, hey, we're not the terrorists. We're the people responding to it. Look at how J. Jonah Jameson treated Spider-Man, or always treats Spider-Man, but specifically, really, in No Way Home. He's definitely a stand-in for Alex Jones. And it's like, yeah, my dude, you see all the conspiracies out here, and you're trying to make us afraid. You're trying to point the finger at the entertainers who are spilling the beans on this shit, instead of, going, hey, I don't know where every single person in Hollywood stands, but I know this. They couldn't get away with this kind of evil unless the government and all governments on this planet fucking allowed it. All right? The United Nations is where we need to be pointing our fingers, not at Hollywood. Because the people in Hollywood are too split. You are going to find people there who are going to be heroes and villains. But I guarantee you this. If they're spilling the beans on this shit, and this shit's real like I'm saying, and the United Nations is sitting with their thumbs up their asses, if the Vatican has all of those fucking, secrets locked away in their vault underneath, like is an actual established fact, not a made-up conspiracy. They have real documents that are ancient in some cases, and others that are said to answer very important questions that they keep locked as a secret. Why would a religious organization keep anything a secret? That's fucking suspect as all motherfucking shit. Just like Freemasons requiring you to join them before they can answer the question of, all right, so do y'all fuckers really, really, truly believe in this shit? Like, do y'all think you're actually Doctor Strange and sorcerers and shit? Or is it just a belief system that you found value in? Like, what's really going on there? And they say, well, to find the answers to those questions, you're going to have to join us. Cult! 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 Cult shit! Cult shit! Cult shit! I know this because I asked them all kinds of crazy shit, and it didn't freak them out. They wanted to meet with me. And now in hindsight, it's like, yeah, if I was so crazy, all the crazy shit I was telling them. Holy fucking shit, right? So in any case, we've been rambling on here for 24 minutes, but I think we've made a lot of excellent points in these 24 minutes. I'm going to try to shorten this up now because people do have short attention spans, but also because I don't want to insult you. I want to remind that we have short attention spans because, well, a lot of us have a lot of shit to do in one day because life is a struggle, and that's the whole point of us being bullied mercilessly and oppressed, that no matter what you do, no matter how hard you bust your ass, you just never have any time to your fucking self. You work 5 days a week, you get 2 off most cases, from birth to death, as a matter of fact, because, well, at least during childhood you had summers off, but, it's not like adults have any version of summer. Because summer isn't just, a week or two. Yeah, adults have their version of spring break. They can go on vacation for a week or two. But when do they have that collective amount of time? Just like even 1 month off. And you have to remember, summer's like at least, 1 or 2 months out of school, I think. Maybe even 3. I can't really remember because I dropped out of school way before anything. But in any case, like, legitimately, time is short, and that's why, it's very difficult to just sit and focus on watching every single Marvel movie in a complete marathon. Just, it's difficult to do it in one day, but even if you don't do it in one day, I think it's harder to, like, watch, as many as you can in a day and then have to keep coming back day after day. It's fun, but that's also the problem, is that things that we should think of as fun, we think of as challenging, like, for example, watching all 3 Lord of the Rings in one day. And I'm not just talking the extended cuts. I'm just talking watching all 3. That's like a fucking 9, 12-hour, 14-hour commitment judging on, which version of the films you watch. That's really not that much. It's just like a day. That's like how you would spend a day. And like getting up, smoking some good Hobbit weed, fucking eating your 7 meals a day while watching The Lord of the Rings. And for me to realize that somebody in my family was a massive Lord of the Rings fan, like, never did that. And then I did that on, like, New Year's. And it was just, like, fucking epic. It was the most incredible experience to just sit there and watch them back to back. Like, when I got to Mordor with Sam and Frodo. I felt like I was there. Granted, every single time I watch it and I smoke the weed, I feel like that. But it's why it's so incredible that you can actually look out in the world and there's like, hey, there's facts that can back up that these experiences and these things that we're feeling when we're reaching out with our feelings, like Qui-Gon tried to teach Anakin, are actually real. And here's the thing, when we try to bring too much thought, too much academia into this shit, we fuck ourselves up, because that's what fucked up Anakin. Because no matter how many good intentions Obi-Wan had, he fucked that whole shit up from the beginning. Because Qui-Gon told Anakin to trust his feelings. And Obi-Wan was like with Anakin, oh, we got to think this shit through. And it's like, no. If you have feelings that your mom's in danger or that people are being enslaved and you have the power to go and stop it, like, how many times do we have to see that the Jedi just are not all they're cracked up to be? Like, individually, they can stand out and be individual heroes. But as an organization, even as depicted under George Lucas's care, they're fanatics who do not use their power responsibly to stop oppression and to stop evil from spreading throughout the galaxy. I mean, for fuck's sake, Disney has a point with the direction they're taking the franchise, which I know some people will not like, but that's why we have to sit here and go, well, if the MCU is like this, then the Star Wars franchise is the way it is like this now for a reason too. But I gotta say, it's interesting to see Harrison Ford be all happy about joining the MCU right now, but just to see his kind of overall disdain for Star Wars. It's almost like Star Wars was meant to be this revolutionary thing that the MCU really is going to be, because they're not giving up. They're still working at it, and the more that they've worked at it, the more that the secrets have all spilled around us. So that's why I think he actually might be genuinely excited about being a part of the MCU, because he might see this, like, the end of the new Matrix Resurrections as our second chance. Like, we figured this shit out. The Bible needed to be about heroes at the end of the day. It needed to be about heroism, and it's all about just the choices we make. Like, they taught us that in the Iron Giant. And when you're isolated and you just can only focus on all of these strange, weird things, and you can actually see that, like, yeah, I'm not sure how much it's affecting the world out there, but I've definitely seen that it's affected my world in incredible fucking ways. And I've documented all of this journey here. And I just wish to share it with everyone, to go like, hey, this shit's real. Like, whatever you're experiencing, I've experienced it too. I've tried to go and talk about this on the paranormal boards on 4chan, where we should be able to share and discuss this phenomena. But everyone on there just yells at you to take your meds and that you're schizophrenic. And it's like, yeah, but the voices saved my life. And Jordan Peterson, no matter what you think of him, like, he said this thing that has resonated with me, and it's proven true. So again, we have to stop being so judgmental here, and we just have to, learn lessons where we can learn them, because they can be very important to us. So no matter what you think of that person, if a lesson they can teach can better your life, like, if you don't like the person, you're fucking them up more by taking their one worthy lesson and using it instead of flushing it down the toilet, because that's what they'd want you to do. They'd want to find something that could actually make your life better and make you hate them so much that you don't use that thing to better your life, because then they've won, all right? So Jordan Peterson said that a delusion can never improve your life. Like, if it's a delusion, it can only make things worse. And that's the thing. The more that I listen to the voices, what would be considered a delusion by the people on 4chan, and it's like, wait a second, that's a paranormal board. How is it that the general consensus on that board is take your pills? How is it that every single time we go there just to find the strangers like us, that all we find are bullies, and yet I'm standing here telling you we're being oppressed everywhere? Like, I mean, if this is real, that's how they're locking up the information, because this shit's actually simple. It's all just about making choices and using our will never to let go of what's truly important. When you're a kid, that superhero, that ideal of being a hero is important and will always be important. Because at some point, you wanted somebody to save you. And at some point, you saved yourself. There's a lot of people who eventually saved themselves, and then they've seen somebody else that they could save, and they've said no. And it's like, but while it's work, saving other people ultimately feels really good if you remember that you wanted to be a hero as a kid, and that those things made you feel really cool when you read those comic books, and you aspired to be like that because of the feelings that it gave you. I mean, that's what it is at the end of the fucking day. That's all it is at the end of the fucking day. I mean, that's why people go and sit in church and they have those religious experiences. And you cannot tell me that Spider-Man No Way Home is not a religious fucking experience. The joy, the incredible feeling, oh my God, of seeing all three Spider-Man together. Of seeing Andrew Garfield save MJ and him tearing up and like us sitting there knowing, fuck yeah, he did it. He couldn't save Gwen, but he saved fucking MJ. He saved the other Peters, Gwen, like that. Fuck, incredibly powerful moment. And then just the joy of seeing them talk about Toby's ability to shoot webs and they can't. And just them having that camaraderie that we've all wanted. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, when we're on the playground, a lot of us wanted to be the only Batman, but this is teaching us, like, fuck no, that's not the fun universe. The fun universe is when you find all of your Batman, all of your Spider-Man, and you're just, I guess Batman, you're just like, hey, are we all gonna go Brood? Yeah, let's all go Brood. It's like, fuck yeah, it's awesome. And then Evil's totally fucked. Because it's like, can you imagine if Avengers Assemble was a multiverse, and it was all the Captain Americas, and all of the fucking, like, can you imagine Evil just completely pissing itself and just deciding to blow its own goddamn brains out because of how terrifying that shit would be? That is the thought that we should all end on, because it is making me feel better than sex, better than food. And if you look at fat people, you're like, they must like food better than sex. Otherwise, they might be skinnier. So, you know, when you find something that gives you that spiritual, religious experience, hold on to it. And that's food for thought. I mean, if I'm Batman and you're Batman, or if I'm Spider-Man and you're Spider-Man, and all of our lives have been made shitty by, like, some evil fuckers out there, and it turns out all they wanted us to do was cower in fear in the corner of the room and to think we had all of these things holding us back when there was nothing holding us back the entire time but our own, like, internal fear that they created, which is just illusionary. Because, you know, if we're the multiverse Avengers Justice League, and think of that crossover. Like, what if we're the Avengers and the Justice League? Like, what if we all show up and it's Spider-Man, Batman, and... Actually, no, I fucked that up. What if Iron Man shows up and Batman shows up and they both just look at each other and they know? They're just like, yo, instead of our egos clashing, let's take all that energy out on these fuckers over here. Because, you know, we both had that experience where, you know, they killed our mom. So it's like, yeah, let's take that energy and use it effectively. Let's not be like Thanos and lack imagination here. Let's use imagination to our advantage, because there's a lot of shit that you'll sit there going, I must have imagined it. And it's like, yeah. But now there's a lot of the shit that we all felt like we imagined collectively. And I say collectively because these are all collective experiences that we share, but we don't fucking talk about. You know, like that one small town out there in all of those fucking movies, horror or whatnot, where they all know the shit, but they just don't talk about it. Well, here's the problem. We all try to talk about it. We know we try to talk about it, but we act like we must not be talking about it because we can't have those conversations. Something's keeping us from having them. Because unfortunately, a lot of us, the first place we go to are like therapists and shit. And when we finally got smarter than that and we started trying to use the internet to really talk about this shit, suddenly shadow banning and all of this weird algorithmic shit that made it impossible to actually connect with one another began to exist. And see, this is why sometimes we think we're done, but we got to keep going, because sometimes you think you're done playing that game, you know. You think you've reached a stopping point, but it's like, no, it's not always about playing for like 5 more hours. Sometimes it's just about those next 15 to 20 minutes that just bring that entire experience together and just make it all worthwhile. Sometimes it's not about watching every MCU movie in one day, because that's literally not possible unless, you know, we get access to our powers and we can really fuck with time in some imaginative ways. But regardless, you know, I lost my train of thought, but it doesn't really matter at this point, because, oh yeah, it was all about the experience coming together. Well, the experience came together, bitch. I don't know what else to say at this point, because I've said a lot of things. At this point, it's more just about the sheer fucking joy of realizing for myself, no matter, you know, at what time this is heard by anyone else. Like, I'm hearing it right now in my time, and it matters to me because for the first time You know, I've said I believed it before, and I really felt like I did, but I can actually now feel the difference of truly knowing versus believing. Like, and that's a motherfucker, because I guess that would be the difference between belief and faith or some shit like that. But when you actually know and you can go like, yeah, there's literally no way for me to go back at all at this point. Like, I couldn't go back if I tried. It's like I'm inevitable at this point. Like, fuck Thanos, I'm fucking inevitable. Because, you know, at one point I asked or wished to believe more, and like through this entire process, like I could not stop believing now. I mean, it's just not fucking possible. And you're like, how? And I'm like, I don't even know. It's like, it's just so intrinsically a part of myself. Like, I've seen too much. I know too much. And I guess it's also just surely the fact that it's bettered my life in such a way that, like, clearly worth it. And anybody out there is fearful and they're like, well, but what if we're being led to the wrong things? Hey, evil's already in control of this universe. They're already destroying everything. None of the people in power might try to tell people that they're doing it for the right reasons, but they're not. It's bullshit. I mean, it really isn't. This is the whole thing of the Eternals being lied to. Like, they're being lied to. Human sacrifice, none of this shit is for the right reasons, no matter what they try to say. None of this was noble because it does not work. You can fix the universe. We can do this together. We all collectively have the power to do so. And that's the one thing that they have absolutely done everything within their power to stop. And if you have the power to stop that, then you could do way better than you're doing. So no matter what bullshit you come up with, like, we know you're the bad guys. Like, put it this way, human trafficking, all of this bullshit cannot exist without those in power allowing it, because why are they distracted chasing, you know, bullshit causes when there are real problems that need to be dealt with first and foremost? Because yes, people are suffering over here because freedom isn't, you know, quite what it should be, and people can't really be themselves and express themselves the way that they should be without all kinds of mucked up mumbo jumbo really fucking it up. You know, you can't be free to be trans or to not be trans without a lot of bullshit going on these days, is a way to really look at that. But at the same time, as much as those people are suffering, like, if those people in power were not completely evil, they would be equally concerned about, you know, kids being in cages, and not just at our own borders. Wish that was a joke. But, you know, and let's also not forget that we've lost track of many of those kids that were in cages at the borders. That's very important to point out right now. And there was, you know, some stories in the news about that, but it never really stuck and nobody ever really seemed to care about it, because that's the thing. They have to allow these things to exist, but they hope, you know, that we just won't have the will to care enough about it because we're all too busy and too concerned with everything else. And it's like, yeah, I have nothing but time. Like, I'm a spoiled kind of bratty person, but, you know, so is Iron Man, and he realized that he could use all of that spoiled bratness for the greater good. And so that's what I've used with all of my time. Instead of using it just to jerk my own self off, I've tried to use it to find information that could help us all, because I hate the suffering I went through, and I don't want anybody else to feel as horrible as I felt. So it seemed like as good a use of my time and effort and energy to figure out if and how people could be helped in such a way. And it really turns out that there are a lot of us I know who deep down believe all of these things, and that we collectively could just have our own kick-ass community. But we really aren't allowed to do that. We're, in fact, always led away from each other. There are always just people getting in the way of us making the connections with the right people. You know, we'll do that to our detriment. We'll be around people we know are no good for us, and that there are people out there who are great for us, or that there are people around us who are great for us, but we're choosing the people around us who are shitty for us. And it's like, wow, that sucks for us. But that's also great for us, because all of these different things prove, yep, that's it. Because if any of us could have amassed power by having a little community and just going, hey, you know, isn't it funny that everybody could say there's a lot of shit in Star Trek that's impossible, but the one thing that's totally not impossible from Star Trek is the diplomacy. And no matter what you think about communism or socialism or this or that or any other kind of bullshit, the fact that the people in charge of the planet just don't, number one, have the sense of responsibility of, yeah, well, if we want to point the finger at the average citizen and think they're a fucker, then you have to take the responsibility of yourself to shepherd us and to show us better. You can't bicker and argue with each other and then point the finger at us when you're acting that way. That's preposterous. That's retarded. Why would we even have people in power of us if they're no better than us? The only reason that you put people in power of your life is because they have the ability to make your life better. If they have one job and they've utterly, completely fucking failed at it, what the fuck good are they? Why the fuck do we need them? There are so many people who are like, we could take all of their power, all of their resources, and fix homelessness and starvation overnight, and yet we don't. Most of us don't want to wage wars. It's the people in charge of the planet who are doing that bullshit. So why do we all fight and die and kill in their wars? Wouldn't it be better to fight for each other? That person who you don't know, who's a stranger, but when you meet them, you realize that they're Peter and you're Peter. And, I won't lie. Sometimes you're going to want to go play with each other's Peters because that's a connection that's really magical. And that's why they've tried to stop us from having it. And on that note, I love you all. And remember, Ohana means family, and family means no one gets left behind or forgotten. So why the fuck are we clinging to family members who left behind and forgot us? Oh, but they're our Ohana. No, they cannot be our Ohana if they left us behind and forgot about us. I understand we are moral, heroic creatures. I get that, but for fuck's sake, let's stop being crazy delusional. Ohana means family. We would not leave behind, and we would fight for each other's Peter, but for fuck's sake. If you cannot cure the Green Goblin, you can't cure him. Because they don't want to be fucking cured. They're going to run away. And if you want to cure them, then you have to fight them. You can't, physically kill them, but you're going to have to go confront them. It's not about befriending them at that point. It's about confronting them. And, I guess you could look at that spiritually of thinking if there's somebody who is in your life who is a goblin, and it's like, well, no, you don't go stab them through the actual heart. You go and you kick their ass enough and, make them feel so shitty, and maybe you leave them, and then maybe they come back to you because maybe they value what they lost. Maybe that changes them. Because this is all spiritual and literal. Like, yes, it's metaphorical, but it also has literal application. But we have to sanely realize that, no, we can feel anger. We don't have to be in control of our emotions. We just have to realize, all right, we all probably have in some form, if we're magical, a loaded gun in our hands. We can choose not to pull the trigger while wanting to. And as long as you can choose to make that choice, then you're capable of wielding said loaded magical gun. And that's also why evil fears good the most, because we are the people who never would. We're the people who suffer endlessly and still choose to, as they say in Doctor Who, imagine all that pain and it just made it kind. It's like, yes, we will stand there and let something that pretends to love us completely and utterly destroy us because we love it, and we cannot see that, yes, we don't want to leave anyone behind. We would love for everyone to be our Ohana, but, and we think if we leave them behind that somehow we've failed, because it's like, well, but we can't leave them behind and forget about them if they're family. But it's like, even if they're in your life, but they've left behind and forgot about you emotionally, then how are they family? You're not doing any disservice, because if Ohana means, it's like aloha. Remember? It works both ways. Bam, mic drop.